Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A, and welcome back to all the stanky faces you've missed for the week. I hope you've all been doing really well. I've had a bit of a head cold over the week, so I've been average at best, but I am on the up at the moment, so I've got that kind of big burst of energy when you're getting over a cold, which is kind of nice. So I've been playing a lot of guitar today, which is always a good way to spend a Friday. If you have questions for next week's Q&A, drop them in the comments below. I will do my best to get back to everybody and answer all your questions. No questions. Well, I should say some questions are out of bounds. If they're out of bounds, I just won't answer them. But ask me whatever you like. I'll do my best to get back to you. And a few little announcements. I need to clear my throat because I just ate some chips and it feels like there's still some chips left in my throat. Ragdoll got a Wham! Western Australian Music Song of the Year nomination for Rust. So that's kind of cool because, you know, the one reason any of us play music is to win trophies and win awards. So that's super duper important. And the other thing is, if you're in Perth, this Sunday Ragdoll is doing a evening show at the Indian Ocean Hotel, the Indie Bar. We're super fortunate in Western Australia. I don't think there's been a case of community transmission of COVID-19 for like 90 days or something. So we're kind of like on the positive, not on the positive. That's not what I meant to say. You know, it's all kind of looking good at the moment. So we're pretty excited to be able to play a show and play some live music. So if you're in Perth and you watch the channel, come and say hi. I'd love to have a chat about guitars and gear and, you know, play some loud rock music for you all. But that's not the reason we're here. We are here to answer your questions. So let's get straight into it and talk about this guitar. I just dropped my pick. I'm gonna have to pick that up in a second. This is a Custom 24, as many of you are aware, but the question is, do I block the Trems on my customs? Well, I don't use the Trem, and I also don't block them. What I mean by that is, if you look at the back, there's no, you can kind of look up close. It's just kind of as is, but I have just wound the screws as far as they go into the body. And that's it. The bridge is sitting perfectly flush on the body at the moment, so I can't pull it up. If I wanted to, I could push it down, but I'm not a whammy person. I remember I did one gig on this guitar with a bar on it, and I spent the whole gig doing dive bombs wherever possible. So, you know, that's fun, and it's good for a one-off kind of thing, but it's not generally advisable. So, yeah, I don't generally use the Trem on this, unless I have to play a part which needs like some kind of whammy bar stuff, in which case I'll pull the bar out, slot it in, and I'll use this guitar. But that is once in a blue moon. And normally, I mean, I had to do a session a couple of months ago, which needed this kind of like, you know, spaghetti western sort of guitar sound. So I needed a bit of Trem, so I used it on that. But yeah, that's about it. The next question relates directly to what I played at the beginning. At home, you know, everything being everything, do I prefer to play through my tube amps or do I prefer to play through my Axe-Fx? And I spend 95% of my time at home playing through the Axe-Fx. It's set up on my desk in front of me. This is my everyday, as I like to call it. I'll put some B-roll on the screen so that you can see what I'm looking at. And yeah, it's an amazing unit. It makes recording so easy. It makes practicing so easy. The tones that come out of it. And I also like to use it live. And you can do things like this, where I've got a ridiculous lead guitar patch, grab my pick, and I can swell in chords using the synth block. Pretty amazing. Absolutely glorious. Having said that, I still do love my tube amps and I do like playing through them. I kind of use them as a reference, you know. Every now and then it's good to just put a cab in a room and absolutely crank it up and just kind of remember what that sounds like. And that ties into another question. Do I prefer playing through a cab or do I prefer playing through FR? I like both. Playing through a cab is I can't do it every day anymore. And, at high volumes, it's just not good for your hearing. It's fun. And I totally get if people watching that much prefer, like the sound of a Marshall 412 or something like that with their rig and a tube power amp and all those kind of things. But for me, I spend most of my time either teaching guitar or writing music or just kind of practicing our live set list. So having a cranked up amp just gets in the way of all that kind of stuff. Something like the Axe Effects just it's a perfect tool for someone like me. I've said that before, and it does get asked a lot. But yeah, and I should stress it's not just a matter of convenience. It's like workflow and its tone as well. It's just the thing that I use to get my sound now. So I always just tell people use whatever piece of gear makes you feel comfortable and that makes you kind of get your sound that you're comfortable with. That is really what it is all about. And I'm very comfortable with this. And I think I sound better and play better with it. So, that's kind of the point. It's more fun. Lots of C minor for today's video. This is a great question. What do I think about Troy Grady? Saint Troy, as he should be called, in my opinion. Troy's incredible. The amount of useful free content that he puts out on his channel is fantastic. But the reason I love Troy's stuff is, the language that he has created to talk about picking and to talk about technique is so helpful, not only as a player, but as a teacher. I do a lot of guitar teaching, and being able to say to somebody, who wants to get into playing rock lead guitar that, hey, we need to talk about two things. We need to be aware of pick slant and pick angle, and they're two different things. And once you kind of define those two terms, you can move on. And the pick slanting stuff it cleared up a lot of things for me that it just made me a little bit more consistent, and it's something that I can think about when I'm playing particular runs, especially live. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm about to play a run. Is it a downward pick slant or is it an upward pick slant? I'm kind of naturally a bit of an upward pick slanter, so there were certain lines that I would do which felt difficult. And if I think about that downward pick slanting thing, it just kind of helps in a big way. So, the classic example of something that isn't downward pick slanting that you can't really define with inside or outside picking. That's how I was kind of taught. Do outside picking, but then a lick like this, I'm going to put it in C minor and also add some pads underneath. So this thing. Lots of delay, which is nice. Cheat codes, right? That's technically inside picking, but the pick slant there, you're finishing every line with the same stroke. You're finishing on a downstroke, so it's not a kind of two-way pick slanting thing or anything weird like that. As opposed to, there's another lick that I like to use a lot, which is another sixes pattern, but it's kind of six on every string starting with a downstroke, this kind of thing. I'll do it in like C harmonic minor or I don't know, somewhere exotic. I never play in C minor on a standard tuned guitar, but I do it all the time on my drop C guitar. So this is just a little bit weird for me. Let's do this. I'll give you the lick. That wasn't embarrassing at all, but something like that where you're finishing every string on an upstroke, so you kind of have to give it a bit more of a downward slant. And there's certain things live that we do in the Ragdoll set where I've got to play those kind of things. So I just kind of think downward pick slant, downward pick slant. So thank you, Troy Grady, for making my life and a whole bunch of other people's lives a lot easier. And his cracking the code stuff is just phenomenal. So, if there's anybody you should be supporting on YouTube, it's Troy, because he is the man. What do I think about Chris Impillitteri? I got really into Impillitteri, especially that song 17th century chicken picking. Chris is a phenomenal shredder, but I love his touch as well. Like just hearing him play kind of bluesy stuff. He's got such a great vibrato, and he's just a monster rock player, you know? And that first album's kind of cool, and then some of the other stuff is a bit hit or miss in terms of the songs, but you know they're probably realistically better than some of Yngwie's songs. And that's not why, you know, that's not the reason you listen to any of these guys. It's because they're just truly gifted, phenomenal lead guitar players. Alrighty, my favorite Scott Gorham solo. Great question. I took this as a sign that I should listen to a bunch of Thin Lizzy, which I did. And like the Gorham solo that was my like first love, because it was the first guitar solo I ever tried to learn, as well as his solo in the Thin Lizzy song, I'm Still in Love with You, or Still in Love with You, you know, with that lick at the start there. I don't know how to play it. I should go and learn it. It's something like that. But just that beginning lick, I always remember. That was like the coolest thing ever. But for me, my favorite Gorham lead is, it's actually off the last Thin Lizzy album. It's on the song The Sun Goes Down. Just his solo and the bends in there are just, oh, you know, spine-tinglingly good. So yeah, that's probably my favorite Scott Gorham lead, but there's a lot, like Southbound is beautiful. Basically, any of his solos are probably up there with my favorite Thin Lizzy solos. As much as I love Robbo, as much as I love John Sykes, as much as I love Gary Moore, as much as I love Eric Bell as well. Like everyone who ever played in Thin Lizzy was great, but there's something about Scott's touch and his phrasing and his soul in there. Which is why I continue to just love his guitar playing, why he is the, you know, he's, when I think of Thin Lizzy, I think of Scott Gorham on guitar. Scott and Phil and Brian Downey, obviously, because Brian's drums are great. My top 5 guitarists, this changes day to day. You know, today probably Scott Gorham would be in there. Ty Tabor from King's X is always in there. There's always a bit of Alex Lifeson, who I love listening to. I love Yngwie, John Sykes, and I could just keep going and list 500 guitar players. So I think it's pretty obvious if, you know, people who like the same players as me always go, oh, you like these guys, and you know that's who you're trying to sound like. So yeah, if you go and listen to some of those players, you'll hear a lot of things. I just kind of, you know, I'll say I was inspired by, you know, I just kind of wholeheartedly ripped off my favorite things from them, which is kind of a big way of how you build your own style. You know, take your favorite part of player A, B, C, and D, and you know, just put them in a blender and see what comes out. Alrighty. Where are we at in the questions? There's a question from Cody. Will I ever have a Kiesel guitar? That's a pretty hard question to answer. I don't have any plans to get a Kiesel guitar, but if I was going to get like a headless, or if I was going to get a 7 or an 8-string guitar, I would probably have them high on my list because they do some pretty cool stuff. I'd really like to get, what do they call it, a Vader, because I played one in the States. Matt Picone's got a great one, a headless one that really, really impressed me. So if I could get one like that, that would be pretty rad. But, you know, I kind of never say never to most things. Alrighty, we're cramming through these questions. Oh, this is a good one. This one is from Rumi73. This is the big one that I wanted to get to. Before I get to that, have I tried the Fluence single coils from Fishman? I haven't. Would you people out there in internet land like to hear me demo the Fluence single coils? Because you know, I'll do it. I'll order a set and put them in something just to try it, just for the thrill of gear. So we can try that. Let me know in the comments, as always. And this one comes from Rumi73. I was going to get to this. I'm also a pedal boy. Thank you, Rumi. Someone is opening a gate or slamming doors or something around here. So that's normally a good sign that I've been going too long. But for the Ragdoll live songs, do we sit down, this is we meaning myself and Ryan, do we sit down and modify the arrangements to basically take a song from live, from the studio to live, or does it happen organically? It's kind of a bit of both. A song like Follow the Leader, for example, most of my parts there are pretty worked out, and that one kind of started life as something that we were going to play live, so I just basically played my live parts on the recording and didn't do a whole bunch of overdubbing. Whereas a song like Shine, I actually recorded that as like a multi-layered thing. Like, there's probably 5 or 6 guitar parts happening at every point in the song. And I kind of went back and combined and collated all of the parts into one easy to play thing. And, there's probably some things where on the recording, Ryan might be playing, we playing drop C. So he might be playing like a C on the, that would be the second string on a bass, because they call the low string the first string. Anyway, he's playing like the root note there. He might play it open just to make it sound a little bit bigger and meaner. He might use a little bit more distortion on his bass. And there's things, there's a couple of things as well where there's parts that I didn't play on. Ooh, my screensaver's gone on. That's exciting. I'm easily distracted, getting over a cold. What was I saying? Oh yeah, there's a couple of parts like in the song All I Want. I kind of play a lot more of what the bass plays in that song on the recording. Live. I'm a scatterbrain at the moment. So let me do this. Let me put my guitar in drop D really quick. Even though we play in drop C. This'll do. This is close enough. So there's a couple of parts there where I would be playing, like on the recording, I just don't play what the bass plays. I just hold a note, but that kind of doesn't work as well live. Going into the pre-chorus in that song, I would normally play this. I obviously don't have the delay on there either, but now live, I kind of follow the bass line, which does this. So yeah, kind of catching some of those syncopations. There's a couple of other songs where I try to follow the drums more. Like on the recording, I might hit a big open chord and it works with layered guitars, but live I end up, the drums might do a ba-dun dun da da. So I'll kind of try to dun 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 dun. That makes a lot of sense. Isolate that part of the video and I sound as insane as I look. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of back and forth. I think with the newer songs we've been doing, there's less of that. Most of the time, the parts are a little bit more thought out and a little bit more detailed. And I think I'm just more comfortable leaving space now. Like I don't have to kind of cram every spare frequency with guitar. I'm just a little bit more confident, a little bit more secure in my playing, I think. So yeah, there's that. But for a lot of it as well live, it's just like, you know what? It's going to sound live. We're a 3-piece band. You come to see a 3-piece band live, the drums and bass are going to be overwhelmingly loud where they're not like that on a recording. And the guitar's just kind of going to do its thing and, put some wah on and some delay. And I kind of try to make up for stuff by using effects creatively, like using big stereo delays if we're playing in stereo and, the rhythmic delay thing or a rotary speaker, just for some extra spice on there. So yeah, that is my answer to that. And I think we're kind of at the end of all the questions. Thank you for your questions this week, kind followers of the channel. If you would like to support the channel, as always, there are links to the Ragdoll albums on Bandcamp, so you can go and buy either a digital album or a CD or a vinyl, or you could buy a t-shirt from my Teespring store. If you like little stomp box buttons, there is an affiliate link from the Home Musician who makes some great 3D printed Stompbox labels. And also, if you want to save 7% on DistroKid, you can follow the link in the video description. And if you're in Perth on Sunday, come down to the Indie Bar. In the meantime, I'll play some stuff and I will bid you farewell. Stay safe, be excellent to one another. I will see you all very soon.